back to another episode of Mind Over Masculinity. I'm your host Avik, and today we are stepping into one of the most quietly loaded conversations for men, which is money and mental health. Yep. So now, dear listeners, like money isn't just about the numbers. For men, it often becomes a mirror of our worth, our identity, and even our masculinity. We tie success to income, security to savings, and sometimes our sense of failure to financial struggles. But what happens when those numbers on the spreadsheet starts dictating our peace of mind, our relationships, even our sense of calling? Great. So to unpack this, I'm joined by a lovely guest. Please welcome Scott Maderer. Welcome to the show, Scott.
Thanks so much for having me. I look forward to our conversation today.
Great. So, dear listeners, before we delve deep into the discussion today, I would love to introduce you with Scott. So, Scott is the co founder of Inspired Stewardship. So, he and his wife, Carrie, have built a global movement helping Christian men and couples align their time, talent, treasures with their higher purpose. So, with decades of experience in the leadership, human behavior, and the money coaching, Scott is here to challenge the way we think about wealth, calling, and the authentic masculinity. So, why to wait? Let's get started. Welcome to the show again, Scott.
Absolutely.
Amazing. So, Scott, why do you think that the money carries such a heavy emotional weight for men? I mean, beyond just paying the bills.
I think for men, it's kind of like you were talking about in the intro. We put a lot of our purpose and our meaning around being a good provider, being someone who takes care of our family, our spouse, our kids, our friends, or those people around us. And a lot of times we measure our success by our income.
Okay.
If we make more, we feel better, we feel more successful. If we make less, we feel less successful, we feel a little bit more challenged. By the same token, it's also not even just the income, it's then what we do with it in terms of we want to provide. And so a lot of times we get into this trap or this cycle of saying yes to things because we feel like that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to provide, we're supposed to give this, we're supposed to help people feel secure, help people feel protected. And we do that through spending and sometimes through spending in ways that are irresponsible. So now we're kind of trapped in this loop of measuring our success based on income and over gifting, over spending, over using, because that's how we have to provide. And now we're kind of trapped in that cycle of I owe, it's off to work I go, where we feel like, we have no choices left in our life, no freedom, no flexibility, because we have to generate the income to kind of keep the lifestyle going.
Mm, understood. Very true. And like when that pressure builds, right? So like say a man feels like he's not earning enough, so how does that affect in his mental health, and also the sense of identity? What do you think?
So the number one cause of male suicide is actually over money and money issues. You look at the stats. Generally, men mental health will often say that it is tied directly to their
Hmm.
income, their worth, their money side of it. Now, the real truth, like you said, it is a deeper meaning to that. It's that lack of alignment, that lack of choice, that lack of flexibility and freedom.
Hmm.
And so what we tend to do is we start making choices that are dictated or at least feel like they're dictated to us. You kind of begin to get trapped in that victim mindset. The statement that I hear from people is I had to do that. And
Yeah.
I had to, when you think about it, think about what that word means. I had to. You literally are saying I had no choice. I've taken away any power of choice. There was nothing else I could have done. It is a victim kind of word. It's a disempowering kind of word. It takes away our identity, our power, our freedom, our flexibility. And when we have that sort of ability to, have that thing take us away from us, that's what you were talking about with the loss of feeling of masculinity. We begin to feel like we're not a good man because we're not able to do these things. And now you're in this negative loop of, well, I'm not a good man, so now I need to go out and do more. You go do more, but then that doesn't work either because it isn't about doing more. That's not really the cure, but that's what we feel like is the cure. So we do more, we fail more, and now it's feeding back on itself in a negative way. And so, and of course, think about it. We're surrounded by a culture that tells us the way to be happy is
Yeah.
spend more than anyone else, look better than anyone else, dress better, do all of these external trappings of success when really and truly that's not what measures our worth as a person, our worth as a man. It's not measured by what we do externally. The car you drive that impresses the guy or gal next to you at the red light isn't really a determination of how good of a man you are. Yet we'll do that. We'll go buy a really nice car to improve someone that to impress people that we've never met, which
Right.
is ridiculous. But that's kind of the culture that we've built up around it, that these external trappings are the measure of success when they're absolutely not.
Very true. Yeah. I mean, it really resonates because money almost becomes this kind of what I'll say, like unspoken scoreboard for men. Like,
Yep.
uh,
It's a scorecard.
but yeah, scorecard. Yeah, but yet the scoreboard doesn't kind of show the sleepless nights, the
Mhm.
anxiety, the shame attached to it. So that's uh that's I really
The
believe it's
broken
true.
relationships, the
Yes.
fear, the anger, the bad habits, that we develop, and that could be drinking, that could be drug abuse, that could be various things, just sleeplessness, like you said, or bad health behaviors. It doesn't, all of that stuff is left off the scorecard. I mean, think about it. You see somebody that makes $100,000 a year, and we go, oh, that person's a success. They've been divorced 3 times and haven't talked to their kids in 6 years.
Yep.
Are they still a success? And some people would say yes, just based off the amount of money that they make.
Yes. Exactly. So, wow. And like in your coaching, like how often do you see that money struggles masking the deeper struggles, like the self-worth, purpose, or unresolved fear? What do you say?
The vast majority of the time. What I always tell
Mhm.
people is money is really a symptom. It's not the problem. At the end of the day, the bad news is the problem is that guy looking at you in the mirror when you get up in the morning and you're shaving. The good news is that's also the solution. All money is a measuring stick. It's a symptom. If for instance, if I just gave you $10 million, all that would do is allow you to do and be what you already are with more zeros. You wouldn't, it wouldn't change you. You'd be the same person. If you're a generous and giving and kind person, you'd be generous and giving and kind with more zeros. If you're a jerk, you'd be a jerk with more zeros. It doesn't change. The only thing that can change our fundamental behaviors is us. I can't change it as a coach. Your wife can't change it. Your kid can't change it. Your best friend can't change it. You have to be the one to change it. And so at the end of the day, the money is the symptom, and that's usually what brings people to help. They're like, I'm lost. I don't know what's coming in. I don't know what's going out. I make too much money to feel this broke all the time. I'm tired of not having any choices. But then what we work on is really what I call talent, which is that internal monologue, that internal mindset. It's aligning your deeper why and purpose and passion with who you are and what you're really doing, so that you stop having that cognitive dissonance. Because usually the stress is really from that. It's from internally, I say, this is the kind of person I am. But then externally, I'm behaving in a different way. And when those aren't in alignment, that's where the stress is coming from. And so a lot of times it's about bringing those things into alignment. And all of a sudden, that stress begins to reduce and begins to relax. It's not that the problem's fixed and everything's better, but it's at
Mm.
least now I'm going the right direction and I'm able to be authentic to who I am.
Yeah, exactly. So like, do you find that the men are more resistant to talk about money directly or about the emotions behind it? What do you think?
Really, the emotions behind it are obviously going to be the harder topic because that's the deeper reality. Money mechanically is just sixth grade math: addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. It's numbers on a piece of paper. The problem is, it's never just numbers on a piece of paper because those numbers represent decisions. They represent choices. They represent impacts on your life that
Mm,
mean that something's going to be different. And guess what? None of us like different. Different doesn't feel comfortable. Different is
mm,
threatening. We incorrectly assume that change equals danger when the reality is
mm,
change could be good, could be bad. It's value neutral, but we evolutionary, psychologically, mentally, spiritually, we ascribe change with danger. If we're not able to do the same thing, that's threatening. And so getting down to those deeper whys and deeper reasons behind it, that's always the hard work because it's always more challenging for honestly men and women both, but
mm,
especially men because it's vulnerable. It is opening up in a way that normally culturally we're not encouraged to do.
mm. Understood. Understood. So, I mean, I think that's the key because sometimes it's not about the dollars themselves,
No.
but the story that we have been telling ourselves like since childhood about what money means. So, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah,
great.
it is those internal stories.
Mm,
We've all built up beliefs around money,
mm,
many of which aren't really true. And oftentimes are contradictory at their heart.
mm,
I've literally seen people that will look at one person, let's say, that has money, and they'll think to themselves, "Oh, that person's a good person. Look at how blessed they are that they've got money." They'll look at another person that has money and they're like, "Oh, that person must be an evil person. They must have taken advantage of people to get where they are. That's the only way they could have gotten rich." They'll look at somebody that doesn't have a lot of money and they'll go, "Oh, look, that person must see how faithful they are, that money's not even important to them. So they're fine that they don't have any money." And they'll look at another person that has no money and they're like, "Oh, well, that person must be punished. Maybe they've done something wrong and now they're being punished and that's why they don't have money." It's like when you stop and think about it, those 4 things are contradictory. It
correct.
it's not those are not truths. Those are things that we put on reality. The deeper reality behind it, the intent, the heart, the measure of who people really are, it's not because of money or the lack of money. It's because of
Mm,
us. It's the people part that's really the measure, but we can see the trappings of money.
mm,
And because it's visible, that's where we ascribe the value and the intent, but it's not really there. Not to mention the fact that nowadays you can fake, a lot of the visible trappings of money for quite a while. We see it right on the internet and other places where, oh, look at my mansion and my Lamborghini. And then we find out that
mm.
the mansion's rented and the Lamborghini's borrowed. It's like, well, okay, that's not real. So that's the other thing is now we've got this whole culture where we want to fake the reality of success rather than actually go out and do something.
Exactly. Hmm. So, wow. And let's challenge something here. Like, so some people argue that the financial pressure is a kind of you can say natural part of the manhood, that it toughens you, forces responsibility. So, do you think that the money stress can ever be a healthy motivator?
I wouldn't say money stress is a healthy motivator, but what I would say is there's nothing wrong with being driven. So let me put it this way. I think there's a difference between contentment and
Mhm.
complacency and being driven and being passive. And let me explain what I mean. So, complacency is I'm where I am and I'm stuck here. There's nothing I can do to change it. I'm powerless. Contentment is whether I have a lot or whether I have a little, I'm still going to find the joy in the moment. I'm still going to find the things that I can truly be grateful for. And they're not external measures. It's I'm grateful for freedom. I'm grateful for time I spend with my wife. I'm grateful that I woke up this morning in a warm bed with a roof over my head. There are things that are not, yes, some of them are tied to money, but they're not really about, quote, money per se. And
Yeah.
the by the same token, a lot of times people think, well, if you're content, you can't be driven. But the truth is, you can want things to change and still find joy with where you're at. So I want my business to grow, but that doesn't mean I'm unhappy with my business today. It just means I want certain growth in my business. I want certain things to happen. I want my relationship with my wife to grow. Doesn't mean I'm unhappy with my relationship today, but it means I also know that we're people and things will change and we need to evolve and adapt and grow over time. So it's contentment is finding the joy in the moment, but that doesn't mean you can't work to make the moment better and grow and continue to develop. And so I think a lot of times people think that the stress is going to drive us, that's the driven part towards more. When I would argue the problem is the stress tends to make us fall not into contentment, but into complacency. And when you're complacent, driven doesn't happen. Instead, what happens is you're running away from things. Fear is driving you. And when we make decisions out of fear, we tend to be trying to move away from something instead of towards something. It's never about growth, it's about escape. And decisions made in that way might be okay in the moment, but long lasting, they tend to not be the best decisions that we can make.
True. Very true. Definitely. And like, if you had to strip it all down, what's the one money belief that most damages men's mental health today? What do you say?
That money is a measure of success. I think it's
Okay.
the belief that the presence
Mhm.
or absence of money is the determination of our worth as a man, is the measure of our success as a man.
Mm,
Where I would say that that's so far from the truth in terms of
mm,
all of the other things that we need to look at, spiritually, relationally, mentally, physically, to really talk about what I would consider healthy manhood is.
mm. Wow. So do you, I mean, and like if you could rewrite that belief for every man who is listening, then what would you replace it with? What do you say?
I would say focus on finding your deeper meaning behind the money. So if
Mhm.
you're looking at money as a measurement of success, why?
Mhm.
Why is that? What is it that you really want? Because
Mhm.
here's the thing, if you had a big pile of money and didn't
Mhm.
do anything with it,
Yep.
it doesn't really do anything for you. The money's
Mhm.
just a tool. It's just a way of doing other things. And usually what we're really after is the things behind the money.
Mhm.
It's like getting out of debt. Nobody wants to get out of debt,
Mhm.
but they want the freedom and flexibility that being out of debt comes. Comes with that experience. Nobody wants to quote
Mhm.
buy a house. Why do people want to own a house? It's not really about owning a house, it's about building a home. It's about having a place that's yours. It's about being able to have, again, that
Mhm.
security, that flexibility. It's those underlying emotions that we really
Mhm.
want. And I would say do the hard work to dig down to what's the actual thing you're after beyond just zeros on a spreadsheet somewhere.
Mhm. That's true. That's very true. Yeah. Okay. And one advice you would like to give it to the listeners today.
Start if you feel like you are making too much to feel this broke, if you feel like your money is tied to your self-worth and your identity, step back from that and start re-examining those beliefs. You'll work with a coach, work with somebody else, but go buy a really good book on it. There's all sorts of things you can do, but take action and begin to start, because the truth is you can change your relationship with money, but it takes you starting on that journey to do it.
Wow. Amazing. So, what a conversation, Scott. I mean, you have reminded us that the money is not just about the math or calculation, it's meaning. And yeah, and like when men reframe the wealth not as a kind of verdict on their masculinity, but as a kind of vehicle for their calling, or you can say peace of mind follows. So, yep. So, to every man who is listening, your worth is not tied to your wallet. Your strength is not measured by your salary. True wealth comes from alignment and living authentically with your time, your talent, and your treasures. Definitely. So, if today's episode spoke to you, share it with brother, a friend, or family, or someone who is silently carrying the weight of money shame. And please remember that the masculinity is not about proving, it's all about living with the purpose. So, Scott, if someone wants to connect with you, what will be the great medium to connect?
I actually set up a landing page just for your listeners. So if you go over to my website, which is at inspiredstewardship.com, and then just put in /mind, you'll find there a resource page. It's got some free resources you can sign up for. It's got information about my book called Inspired Living. I also have a podcast. It's got that on there, as well as a place you could just set up a time to for us to have a chat. So if this resonated with you and this is an area as a man that you'd like to get started on working on, I'd be happy to chat with you. No pressure, no hard sales pitch. And again, you can find all of that over at inspiredstewardship.com /mind.
Amazing. So, dear listeners, what I'll do is I'll put all the details into the show notes for a easy reference so that you can easily reach out to Scott. And also, until next time, this is your host Avik reminding you that to choose courage over comparison and calling over currency. So, thank you so much.